Okay, let's get started. So Thursday, when we wrapped up, right, you had the sixth requirement that you're gonna build a tree for it, which was lender can only access the credit application assigned to them. So is anybody completed that? Three,
There was one last requirement, right?
we went through five, so who has completed it?
You're supposed to email it here?
No, no.
You just had it here.
If you have it, then.
So Thomas, do you have it on?
I have it, but I'll probably have to put in an email.
Oh,
I just had two options, which was,
Let's do that. So you walk me through it and I'll draw the options.
okay,
How about that?
yeah,
Hang on, give me a second. And I will.
The one after the lender can only access the credit
Yeah.
application assigned to them.
Yep.
Okay.
Hang on.
I have the scenario three.
So you said that you had two,
I have four.
you have four.
okay.
Hold on, let's just,
I had two.
all right.
So we can start with one person and then we will.
So why don't we start with yours and then we'll add.
Mine was two, so this talks about lender manage lender.
Okay.
And so in terms of that one, the first, the positive scenario would be if lender is able to assess credit applications assigned to him or her.
Okay.
And then the next option will be if it's unable to assess other credit applications or other applications assigned to other lenders. So which is like the same thing.
Okay.
Those are the only two scenarios I also will come up with.
Okay.
Okay. What else
Joyce.
you had, Joyce?
Joyce, what you had?
Also have the lender valid login ID for one. Lender invalid login ID. And the multiple lender valid information and lender should not be able to log in to access nobody's.
So ID doesn't play here a role, right? Because the lender ID is essentially like it's whatever I will log in as,
Yeah,
right? So that field is not relevant here. But the other one you said, the third one, what was the third one?
this one was multiple lender information.
Right, so this is, at least you will need it two, right? One is yourself, one is other,
Somebody else.
right? But that's probably in this one, so. You are on the right track, but it's not exactly right.
Can I just add on what I have written?
Go ahead, Sneha.
The other options I have mentioned is lender is able to access, this is the negative one. A lender is able to access the application assigned to other lender. And the other one is he's not able to access the application assigned to himself. So,
Okay, so if you think around it, right? The failure of this particular test case will address the first one that you mentioned, that
Okay.
they are able to access others. And failure of this test case will
Oh.
identify that they can't do it. So
gotcha.
those are redundant.
Oh, okay.
What else you had?
That's
So those two are redundant. Okay,
Okay, we can see the blank screen.
what do you mean by blank screen?
There's nothing we can't see.
So, but if there is no application in the system, it's a moot point, right? Because I don't know whether it's mine or other, so I cannot validate any of the condition if there is no data. So it's an ambiguous.
How about verify if the lender access or do we already have it? Verify if the lender email is invalid. or
But that's the data, right? It's not about accessing the credit application, right? Even if their email is invalid, if it was assigned to them, right, they can log into the system and see it. If it was invalid email, right, they will probably will have some sort of a flag from your dealer when they submit it that, hey, it failed to notify land, right? But that is a different part of the process. This is once it is assigned to me, I can see only mine and nobody else's.
Okay. So what if the lender have a wrong email address? You're not gonna get any email notification for the.
So
application.
you have to understand how things works in the system, right? Email notification is essentially after the application is assigned to the lender to them. But at that point, application is already assigned to the lender. Right, it's just a notification.
It's a separate requirement, right? Email notification, so you want to test it separately.
Yeah.
Not mix it up with this one. Because this one has nothing to do with the email functionality.
Notification.
You are not testing email functionality. Okay, you are focusing on, can I access the application assigned to me, basically.
So here are different scenarios that you need to think around. Right? So it's how do I know I can access all the credit application assigned to me? So you have to test a scenario. If there is only one application in the system and that is assigned to lender, they can do that, right? So there is, if I have one, right? So if I have one application that is assigned to me that I can access it. If there are more than one application assigned to me, I can see all of them, right? Because it says applications, right? So if there are more than one, I can see it. The other scenarios that I need to see it is if there are more than two applications in the system, one assigned to me, one assigned to another lender, I can see only one and not two. Right?
Right.
So the other one is 1 plus where one is assigned to the lender. Okay. And this one is another scenario. If there is only one application, it's assigned to some other vendor that I cannot see anything. Right, so you have 4 scenarios that you need to think in order to make sure I can access all the application assigned to me, and I cannot access any application that is not assigned to me. Okay,
So you have to break it down very,
how do I
this
access
level,
them?
basically, right? It's just a complex scenario, but this is very common in all
Yeah.
kind of systems you're gonna encounter, right?
Think around it, right? It's in a math, it's a probability. What all different scenarios is gonna be, and that's all you're breaking it down. Okay. Any questions? Do you understand how this works?
So you create the negative scenario for can't allow assigned.
Well-
That's 1 plus.
In this case, right, there is no such thing as a negative scenario, right? From, if you think it out, right? It's, I can see everything that is assigned to me,
1 and 1.
if it's signed to somebody else, I can't see it, right? Because it's still part of it because the word is only assigned to me,
Right.
right? And then if there are others in the system that then is assigned to them that I can't see it. Right? So you have to look at all the scenarios. Only one assigned to me, more than one assigned to me, right? One assigned to me, one assigned to somebody else, and then only one that is assigned to somebody else that I can see.
So basically, in this case, the negative scenario doesn't come in at all.
Well, there is no such thing as a negative scenario here, right? Because part of it is that like it's, if it is assigned somebody else that I can't see, that's part of the only. Right, you have to prove both sides of the requirement in order to fulfill it, that I can see only those assigned to.
Negative, you can see someone else.
Negative is if you see somebody else's. But you cannot produce that, right? Because the absence of one automatically indicates the other, that I'm able to see others. Okay. 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 Let's do some more tree exercise. Okay. Here's what we're going to do now. Let me pull up that. Okay.
Just zoom out a little bit here.
Yes.
One more.
Who's the person who should be? Oh, do you have a PDF installed on this one?
Yeah, this open with PDF.
Yeah.
Just click that. Yeah.
They changed the whole thing.
Taking on training.
No, it's trying to like it's figured it out. There it is. Okay. So what I want you to do is work as a team and build a tree for 3 requirements. One.
Highlight, yep. Yeah.
Okay. I want you to do this. Okay. I want you to do this requirements. And I want you to do this requirements.
Is this the new one?
These are the new requirements.
Okay.
Right, it's still from the same document. Right? So for the 3 that I've highlighted, I want you to build a tree. Okay, work together as a team. Sneha is all alone.
That's fine, CC can work alone.
Okay, Sneha, can you work alone to build your trees? Neha,
Can you see here?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
you're good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so it's what, 9:15? 3 requirements. I'll give you 15 minutes each, 45 minutes to work across 3. Collaborate as a team. You figure it out whichever way you want to divide it and work together and review it together.
Make sure you guys review your work, right, as a
Okay.
team. Okay, so let's say you
When you
need
say as a team, do you mean like
4 of you,
four of you,
4 of you.
okay, so 4 of you, 4 of you.
So each table is a team. And Sneha is lone trooper on black. Okay? Yeah, feel free to write on the paper.
yeah, you just
Wow. Let's go. Update this requirement. Hmm. All right. Let's talk through this requirement. So why don't this team tell me what all test cases you had?
Franchise, right?
For the franchise number, yeah.
So. The first one is like a positive, obviously positive 2-digit states and first 2-digit county and 3-digit auto number, that's positive. And second one's gonna be negative invalid state, valid county, valid auto number. And another one is valid state, valid county, invalid auto number. The third one is valid state, invalid county, valid auto number.
So how many you have?
So total 4,
4?
yes.
Okay, so this
And no-
one.
And no data on state.
Hang
No
on.
data.
So the first one is valid data. Okay. Second one you say it is?
Invalid state. And valid county
Right.
and so on. Invalid state. All other valid, yeah.
So it's only 2, right? Because the third one is generated.
Valid county,
Okay,
and another one is invalid state. And all other is valid.
that will already say it.
Invalid county, so this one is invalid county, yes. And other one is invalid auto number.
What do you mean by invalid auto number?
So maybe there's three number, right? Auto number, maybe you put, oh, you can put any number, right? So maybe invalid auto numbers, maybe instead of number, you put alphabetical later.
So you think you are defining it? So let's understand the requirement first. What it just says, if the franchise number is auto-generated, right? So you're not providing the number 1, 2, 3 there.
Yeah.
The system is generating those.
So instead of number, what if there's later?
System is generating, you are not doing it.
Okay, so there can be a later too.
You're not, so remember, the only input you're providing is the state and county. Everything else is system generated.
Oh, okay. So there can be later or number, you don't know.
No,
Say-
the requirement is expected, there will be a 3-digit number.
Auto number. Okay, it will automatically.
It will automatically
Okay.
generate it.
So we don't have to.
So you
worry.
don't have a choice that, hey, I'm gonna provide a letter for it, because
Right.
you're not providing it, system is generating it.
So. So no data on the states,
Okay. So then you say the fourth one is no data.
on the states. And no data on county.
Well, that's the same, no data, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. Is that the 4 things you put it? Okay. How about that team? Do you have the same 4 or you have different thing?
Is there anything different?
We will still test for if it's 7 characters. It has four characters and.
Remember, this is auto-generated. So you're not specifying it's 7-digit. The system is generating the number for you.
Yes, but we make sure if it is still generating four characters and three numbers. Or if it's generating more than.
Right, but in that case, remember, like if it's generating it more than 7 characters, right, by default, the system is not fulfilling the requirements. But again, the question is, whatever it generates, does it meet this guideline? That's what the question is. That was the requirement.
Okay.
It's not whether it generates 7 character, 8 character. Whatever the system generates is a franchise number. Does it follow and meet this rule?
Okay.
That is what the requirement is. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so are we getting that from the requirement 1.2, because that where it says if directed not to be assigned auto generated.
Right. So that requirement says it's going to generate an automatic number, and what number gets generated is defined in this requirement. Okay, so you have to look at that holistically together. One is auto-generated. That means you are not providing a free form information to do this. And then the rule to generate the auto-generated franchise number are here.
Okay.
Okay,
It has to be state dash, county dash and the
Right.
number. So you're not sure Ohio or like other
It's-
states,
I
right?
remember, like it's when you're creating a dealer, that is the time that this thing kicks in. Right? And then when you're creating dealer, you're providing the information about what state and county they're present into it.
Okay.
And based on that, it automatically generates for you. All you have to validate is, does the system generates it according to this rule or not? Okay. Guys, had any other question?
So.
Okay,
Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah.
so Sneha,
Yeah, I understood it.
do you have anything different than this?
No, it's the same thing, kind of. I was like, again, making more cases, basically, like, let me show you. Like, if you don't enter any data or if you enter wrong numbers, so basically, yeah, I understood that it's system generated numbers, so that's fine.
So,
We are also. If the auto generated number is not unique.
okay, so there are other things. What if there are 2 dealers in the same county, in the same state? How are they going to generate?
That's not. You're also adding,
last
if it's not unique, auto generated number.
Right, no, so
But you have
the
to write it out as a scenario.
scenarios,
So
right?
So you're gonna test the format first, then you're gonna have additional
So
scenarios.
all you talked about here is the format,
It's a valid format like 7 characters, but not.
right?
the
So,
auto-generated is
so,
not-
So you
so
can
the way you need to do it is within the valid data, right? There is only one dealer in there. There is more than one dealer
With that combination of.
with that combination. So you need to make sure the first one starts with 001, the second one starts 002,
Yeah,
the third one is 003.
so possible up to 999, right? Up to
Well,
1,000, yeah.
You don't test till 999.
You don't
but
need
as
to
long as you
toss
get
it.
the
As long
sequence
as it
correct.
becomes a pattern where it's increments by 1, that's a valid, right? That's why you need to do 1 and more than 1, because then you need to increment it. Okay, so in addition to the 4 that you did it for the data and the validation of string, you need to do it to make sure the last part, which is 001, it's properly incremented the next time you add another dealer in the same county in the same state.
That's right.
Okay.
Sequence.
Clear?
So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 test cases.
At least 5 test cases.
So you do 001, then after that you can do.
You're
Well,
not doing
first
001.
001.
System is generating it. You are trying to create in the same state and county, multiple dealers and making sure each one still gets in the proper increment.
So that means that within this franchise number, there wouldn't be any specific number to identify a dealer. It would
No,
just
this
be-
will still be that. This is the whole thing, which is specifying a specific dealer.
Okay, so each dealer will just have their own digits, which would be the
Right.
unique identifier.
In the same county and state.
Got it.
If it is a different county and state, then it should just generate it, right? So you may need to also think around it,
Yeah.
right?
I would definitely test.
Do it one more scenario here, where it's at two different counties and state to make sure both of them just go 001.
So instead of
Right,
Ohio
so
and
let's say
Franklin,
there is an Ohio and Franklin County, right? The first dealer comes to 001. You need it, there's another dealer in the same county. It should show 002.
That's what we.
If you add in Indiana, right, in a county, whatever the county is there, right? You need to make sure it comes to 001.
or you do Ohio and Delaware County, and it should
Yeah.
be 0.
Right, and then, yeah, so you do it Ohio, Delaware, then it should be 001. So you need to make sure, right? Different state or county. Right. So 3 scenarios you need to test invalid, and then 3 negative scenarios that it fails to generate the franchise number. Okay. Good? Is the other scenario. Let's talk through this one. So why did the second group start?
And make sure you explain the requirement, okay? Understanding before you dive into the scenario.
And when does this come into play?
Let's see set the context correctly.
So let's get started. So Thomas, your team, let's talk through it. What are the different scenarios?
We have valid data like.
Well,
characters.
Talk about the requirement first.
Let's-
So
let's-
what is your understanding?
When does
of
this
the-
come into play?
When does it come into play? This requirement. What is the requirement about?
You are managing users, you are creating. The customer.
So creating a new user,
User.
right?
Right. You're creating password.
Okay,
You're creating password or supplying the password?
Supply, yeah.
Okay.
So. The character,
so when you,
so there said it must be 8 characters. So it should contain 8 characters, not more, not less.
so you just say,
Yeah. It must be 8 characters.
so length is 8,
Yeah.
Okay.
And it should have at least one uppercase and at least one special character.
again, you're just reading the requirements, you're not telling me the test cases.
So test case is 8 characters with uppercase and
Okay.
special character, that's one scenario.
That's a positive one, right?
Yes.
That's a valid data, right?
Yeah,
That's a
valid
valid
data,
data. You are supplying valid data.
And
Hmm,
in another scenario is it's not equal to 8 characters.
hang on a second. So length is 8 character plus uppercase plus special character,
Yes.
okay? What is the second scenario?
Not equal to 8 characters.
Okay, length is,
Less than 8, more than 8 characters.
okay,
That's-
so you wanted to be a more specific, right? You want to be like it's a less than 8 and greater than 8.
We don't want
Okay.
us to say it's not equal to 8 characters.
I mean.
How are you gonna test it? Think around ambiguity.
It's not equal to 8.
Not equal to 8. So here is the question. It's not equal to 8 means, is it more than 8 or less than 8? There are 2 different things.
So she has it already in
Okay,
the.
so you broke it down into
Okay.
that, okay? I can see it. So this is the way you did, right? You said
Not this.
not equal. Not equal to 8, and then you broke it down this further. Greater than 8, less than 8, okay?
And then it has 8 characters, but it is. It has 8 characters, but 2 scenarios again, no uppercase and no.
Okay, so 8 characters, right? No uppercase. And then no special. case. Okay,
And in the positive scenario, we have like 5 branches in that.
Okay.
Again, it has 1 uppercase positive or more uppercase. 1 special character, more special character. or
do you
more
need that?
Just be big.
So, no, I'm questioning it through because look at the requirements, right? What it says. At least.
Yes.
At least 1, right? What does at least 1 mean?
At least.
At least one.
At least one.
1 or more,
Yes, we don't need.
right? So
For positive.
is it redundant or is it unique?
It's not, it's not required. Yeah.
I'm saying you have to think around it is eliminate the redundancy,
Okay.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 test cases. Okay, any other one?
Anybody else has any?
Okay,
other-
how about this team?
You get the same thing.
Same
About
thing?
Sneha?
Do you have any?
Sneha?
What if we have in the length numbers instead of characters? That would be 1. Or alphanumeric.
So again, it's a character, but default, the definition of character is it could be number or it could be a character.
Right.
So it's always, a character is always alphanumeric.
Okay.
Do you have any other test cases? Okay, so definitely you can do this, right? So,
This one's a little easy.
all right,
Easier than what we got last time for homework.
What is it?
Easier than what you got last time for homework, right?
Yeah, well,
So the homework was a little bit complicated.
well, it's always can get complicated. I mean, yeah, so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah, but you start with the complex.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Now
this one
it's-
got easy because of
Yeah.
that, right?
It's more clear,
So
actually.
it's more practice now, right? I mean,
Right, yeah.
what you are going through
Definitely,
is more exercise, so.
okay, let's talk through this one now.
Check with Sneha. That's it.
Sneha? Can you
Yeah.
talk,
Yes.
what are the scenarios here?
There is only one if it is like after credit system shall not lend away. So once the credit card application is submitted, the lender would be notified by email. That would be the positive test case. So any other way of notification would be negative, like a text message or any other way out.
So, so this one is more on the mail only, right? Not on the text.
That's
How do you
right.
Sure that if I submit the credit application, I get an email.
Right.
So you just say it's, you're gonna submit it and you're gonna see it, if that's the only positive test case.
If you do not receive any email,
Well,
Okay.
that's an absence, right? If I got the email,
that's, yeah,
if I didn't get the email, then by default, that's a negative test case, right?
right.
So I don't need 2 separate test cases for that.
So just one for this.
Anybody else?
That the email or not get.
Yeah, not
If
receiving.
you don't
email.
get the email, it's either invalid email or
Or-
some other.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you picking an email from?
So who is receiving the email? by
Who's
the way?
getting?
Lender is getting.
The lenders get.
How do you know what email address to send to?
Is it magic
It's in the data, right? When you create the.
Walk us through the process. When you say it's in the data, right? So start with the dealer, right? Or what would you do? How would you have the information set up?
Dealer choose the lender to whom he wants to send the application to.
Okay,
And where did you find that information, Sneha?
So I think when they,
Hang on, let me see if she can answer that. Sneha, where did you see that information? Dealer will choose a lender.
Uh, So dealer would submit the application, right? The credit application, and
Yeah.
then it should be going to the lender, so. which one-
But where do you see that information? How do you pick that? Where does it say in the requirements or design document? What lender and those things?
I have to check.
Does anybody know here in the class?
I
Well, you
think
guys
they're
are
choosing
just-
the lenders. Are they choosing the lenders based on,
Dealer picks the lender.
based on the county?
When-
Does it say in the requirement, I mean, dealer picks a lender, or what requirement it says? I'm just asking a question, okay, I mean, you might find
Okay,
somewhere.
as far as the diagram, I'm just looking at it, it says that the dealer submits it to the ARF loan website, and from there, the application is forwarded to the lender.
Which lender it forwards to, and
So, that, it's not clear.
where did you find that information?
I mean, it's there in the function context diagram, if you see in that, it just says the dealer submits the credit application and then to the airflan.com, and then from there, the credit application notification is sent to the lender. It doesn't clarify like to which lender it goes to.
you guys are assuming it goes to one lender. So it goes,
Because before.
How do you know it is coming? I'm kind of pulling it up, information for you guys, right?
Lender can only access the applications assigned to them.
No.
That means-
but
No,
how
so
does it even get assigned? Let me.
what if as a dealer, I send it to 5 lenders?
Can I send to 5 lenders?
yes, I think, yes.
What does it say in the requirement? Can I send to multiple lenders, or can I send to one? lender?
Remember what I said, don't assume or make up your own requirements. What is in the document? That's what Herschel is asking.
Right.
But you assume somewhere. That means you must have read somewhere. If not, you made up your own requirement. Right? So if you look at the credit application entity,
Sometimes you have to
okay?
analyze it really thoroughly, information.
What it just says, it has associated only one dealer and one lender only within a given credit application. There's a lender ID field within the credit application. So if you look into the credit application in the design document. Right? So you have to understand the structure of how information is captured. And based on this structure, you cannot have multiple lenders assigned to the same credit application. You can have one and only one lender for a given application. And that's a required information, right? So now let's tie this thing. So all I'm giving it as a dealer, setting up an ID for a lender in the credit application. So how does the email notification go from there? If you look at it, right, there is no email address for lender in the credit application. So how does it get? Is it magic?
So the email is linked to the ID. So
Okay,
once you
so
select
let's
the-
look at that, right? So the email, so this is your lender, right?
Yeah,
So lender has an email.
Yep.
Okay. So now let's talk about, now that you understand the structure. Let's talk through the requirement. Right? How many different scenarios you need? Is it one sufficient?
so the next scenario will be, the email was not delivered. And under that scenario, we will check to see if the lender ID was correct. Like,
So walk me through it when you say it.
okay, so there's another.
Okay.
There's another tree which says, email not delivered.
Okay.
No email or not delivered.
So this one is email
This one is
received,
Yeah,
email
Not received.
not
not
received,
received.
yeah.
Okay.
And then under not received, under the section where it says not received. Yeah, we will check for invalid lender ID.
Is it email invalid ID, email invalid address? I'm hearing two different things.
No, invalid ID,
Lender ID, they say.
invalid lender ID, because based on the design document you showed us, we most likely we will see the lender ID. And the email is linked to the ID. So once we select the correct ID, automatically
Okay.
the email will go. So if the email was not sent, it's likely that we selected the wrong ID.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
now,
Or if
Most
there's
of-
email,
so most of the system, the way it works is you have no idea on the ID. There is a drop down box which says, here are all the choices, select one from them.
Okay.
Right? So the scenario where you're talking about invalid lender ID, of course, if you're manually entering all the IDs and you're remembering all the IDs.
Okay.
Most of the systems are not designed that way.
it will be a predefined.
It will be
drop-down
predefined drop down list that you
They will
pick it up
see
from
of all the lenders in this.
Right.
When there's a-
You're selecting a lender ID which is not linked to the dealer. So that would,
Well, lender IDs are not linked to the dealers, right? The lenders IDs are associated with the credit applications.
okay.
So what will show in the drop down in this case?
So let's say if there's a Chase, Huntington, a whole bunch of other ones, right? So it'll give you a drop down. Which lender you want to send it, and you pick that lender from the drop down list,
Okay.
right? Since you are doing a picking. You're not manually entering, hey, ID 123 is the lender Chase. ID 451 is Huntington. You're not selecting the ID now. You're picking it up, the names. Right, and then that is kind of associated. That's how most of the system works.
Okay. So in this case, this will be invalid name selection, is that what would be? the-
Well, if you're selecting from drop down, there is nothing called invalid, right?
So wrong.
If you go to the state, let's say you're entering address, and if you click on the drop down. There's always 50 state only, right? You can't just go and randomly say XX as a state,
Okay.
right? If it forces you to select from a drop down, there's no way you can enter it.
So you selected an incorrect name. Incorrect lender name.
Well, but then how do I know that it was a good?
You cannot
You
select.
cannot
correct.
select it,
Let
like
me put
it's-
it that way. Okay.
Can you take us back to the design document?
okay? Now, think of this one, right? When you're selecting credit application and you're selecting a lender ID, as a user, you don't know that did they intended to send it to that lender or they didn't intend to send somebody else, right? You have to go whatever the data that they've selected. Right? Now, once the question of data comes in, how do you know? What if within the lender, right, that I have to enter an email address? What if I enter a wrong email address? will I get an email? Do you have to test that scenario? Invalid email address, right?
So it will not be invalid or it's invalid. It's invalid email.
Now, there are two different scenarios, right? I have a valid email address and I got the email. I have a valid email address, I didn't get the email. Right? And third scenario is I have an invalid email address.
Then if you don't get an email, it's either invalid email or it's some network error.
What- Right, network error, right? What would, you want to validate that scenario, right?
Yeah.
That, hey, even though I had right email address, I didn't get that, right?
The valid email address. Can be another scenario. Valid
So
email address.
again, the way I would not do it, the email received or email received, right? The way you want to think around, and here I'll change it in color, right? Is valid email address, invalid email address. Okay. Now, in this scenario, if you think around, if I had a valid email address, right? And then I get the email, right? That's a positive scenario. If I didn't get email, right, that means this scenario failed. That will validate it. Hey, I got a valid email address and I didn't get it. And if it fails, then that's the second scenario. Right? And then this one. So you need only two scenarios. Valid email address and invalid email address. If you get it, that means it passed. If you didn't get it, it failed. You see what I'm saying? And then I had an invalid email address. That means I will never get it. Okay.
So let me throw something in here, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, the requirements is lender supposed to get an email, right? But the system, basically, generally, what if there are 5 users at lender? Are they sending email to the lender's email? Lender means the company email, or they are notifying the users of the lender?
I think the lender is not the user, the whole.
Whole
No.
lender means like one email, right? If the lender has email, who will have typically access to somebody at the company? Then how would they notify the other people? So most of the time, the systems are built such a way that if there are 5 people working at that lender, set up in the system, they all 5 get notification.
Or or the other option is you have a shared mailbox,
Yeah.
email box,
Shared mail.
right? They get
Which
it
will
and then they
notify,
process it.
right? This system, the way Airflow is built, it notifies each individual user, not the lender. But for simplicity's sake, we can go with the mailbox.
Shared mailbox.
Okay. But if you have additional complexity for testing the additional users,
You think of
then
that.
you have to think of that. That is, how would you even pick the user? You have lender ID, you have to associate, find out who the users are, they all should be getting the email.
Oh.
So you need to just
So who's
check.
gonna, so between those 5 users, who's gonna work on the lender to approve?
They will discuss.
They have an
will have a
internal
workflow
process on it.
outside the system.
Okay.
So they all 5 got notified. Whoever has availability, they will go and work through the
Process.
application.
Okay, so. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
last time.
But at a minimum, you need this two.
Yeah.
Scenarios. Okay, you had a question? Yes,
Yes, go ahead.
So when we talk about shared mail, is that in where the users at the lender's place and then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Approval and that. Are you talking about SharePoint or what is the shared?
shared email addresses, like essentially like
It's a mailbox.
it's a mailbox, it's shared. Multiple people have access to it, so they all get it.
It's a group, right?
It's a
So
group.
In the companies, they will set up a group. There are 10 people working
Oh,
in the department, they all get notified.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And you can do it multiple, right? You can create a distributed list and give that email address of that distributed list. Or you can have a same shared mailbox that multiple people have access to it. Okay, there are multiple ways you can do it, right? But that's why I'm saying there's in general, there are two, right? And then depending on what it is, it's a distributed email list. Then as Herschel pointed out, everybody gets an email. If it's a shared mailbox, everybody logs into the mailbox and then there is only one sense of email. Right? Either one works fine. Okay. Any questions on this?
Yeah, so when I think you made a point, but I kind of don't see it reflect on the tree, so that's why I'm asking.
Sure.
You mentioned that an email could be valid, but the lender may get the email or may not get the email.
Right.
But with what I see on the tree, I see valid email, got the email, but I don't see didn't get the email.
Okay, so think about it. When I'm testing this scenario, right? If I don't get it, I'm gonna fail this scenario, right?
Okay.
But it's still the same scenario.
Okay. Okay, so it will be redundant to.
It will be redundant if I said, yeah, you have valid email address and you didn't get it. Because failure of this automatically indicates that, so I don't have to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So even though with a valid email address, if you don't get it, you still gonna fail.
If you fail this one,
Yeah,
it automatically becomes that. Here,
okay,
let's just say.
Yeah.
For exercise, right? Let's just put this. Okay. Did not get an email. Okay, let's put that to scenario. And then when we go to write the steps, I want you to write all the steps. And you will see it's the exact same thing.
You wrote it down like that, right? You did that, you didn't get email.
Yeah, so that's fine. Let's just do that. It's an experiment, right? So when you write the test cases for this, write it all the steps, look at the expected results. And the only difference you're going to say is one expected result is different than that. All of the steps are exactly the same. So it's a redundant. Okay. Good so far? All right. So let's go to. Did we start a new one? No.
What is it?
It's gonna say, did I start a new one?
No, it just.
All right, so.
You like 5 minutes break to them or?
Yeah. All right.
Break that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do that. I was just gonna like set it up the context.
I think.
Then let's do 10:45.
7 minutes.
Let's break it till then.
7 minutes. 7 minutes. Stretch your legs.
Sneha, are you back?
Yes, I'm here.
So let's get started. Okay. So. If you recall, right? We started with a dealer, as a dealer user, I want to log into our phone system, right? And then they said there are 4 possible scenarios. Right? So we put the valid ID and a password. Then you had valid ID and valid password. Then you had invalid ID. And then you had no ID and password. Right? Those are the 4 scenarios. So how do you convert those 4 scenarios to each individual test case, right? So the way you do it is you pick each one of them, right? So let's pick this one first. And you write a test case, step-by-step instructions. Okay. So that's what we're gonna do. Now we have defined the high-level scenarios. We're gonna pick each leaf on the tree that we build it, and we're gonna write a test case for each one of them. Okay, so. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Let's start with it. What is a test case template is going to look like? Okay. So you can do it like it's in most of the systems. Like it's, and we'll see it in a couple of weeks where we start using the tool. You could just don't have to do it in a Word. You can just start doing directly in the tool. You can do it in the Word or you can do it in Excel, right? So here's the template in the Word. Okay. Most of the firms where you will go work, they will have standard test case templates. If they're using tools like Jira or DevOps, Azure DevOps, those things are built in into the tools itself. So all you do is just create a test case and then put the information, right? But let's talk about at a brief, what are the information contained in the test case? Okay. So typically what you have it is you identify the project names, right? Because a lot of times you may be working on multiple projects, right? Or there are multiple people working on a project, right? So you want to identify what project for this test case is getting written. You can also identify functional modules or functions where it's kind of written at, right? And then think around for each test case, then you have to identify if there are multiple testers, you want to know who wrote it, right? So it's test case designed by, when did you design, what is the release version? And when you start executing it, you can keep track of that information. When did I actually execute it, right? Remember we talked about the priority, high, medium, low, right? So you want to say, is this a high priority test case, low priority, or a medium priority, right? Then you can say test case number, right? Because if I have 1,000 test cases, how do I know which one is what, right? So potentially a number, the title. So what is this test case about? And in a moment, we'll see it. How do you override it? Like, because as a human, we can't remember 1,000 numbers, right? But it's much more easier if somebody gives you a description to say, this is exactly what it is, right? Then you look into precondition. So preconditions are the conditions that is what must be true in the system before I execute this test case. Remember what we say, test cases should be repeatable and predictable, right? In order to make it repeatable, I have to say what will be the state of the condition will be. So that if I execute this test case based on this condition, this is the expected result. So I can predict it every time. Then there is a dependency if this test case is dependent on some other things. Like for example, we were talking about Amazon, right? The e-commerce, I'm checking out a cart, right? I have items in that, right? And I'm gonna go make a payment, right? The payment is gonna have dependency on external gateways, right? So I may want to test it, but if the external gateway is not available, I can't test it, right? So you can identify those kind of things as dependency up here. Is that, hey, this one is dependent on external payment gateway, or this one is dependent on shipment. For example, we just talked about the email, right? So email server is down. Even if I try to run the test case, you identify, hey, this test case is dependent on the email server. So when I execute that, if the email server is up, or I need to make sure that one is up before I can execute.
Right. So payment gateway means PayPal is a payment gateway?
PayPal is one of the payment
Okay.
gateways. Right. Or like it's Visa or MasterCard networks as a gateway.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Then there's summary, which talks about in detail of what this test case is about, what is expected, whether this is positive, negative, what kind of scenarios are there. Okay. Then you identify what are your step-by-step instructions. For every step, if you execute it, what is expected results? And then when you run, you can capture all of the actual results for those. Okay. Remember, like it's in order to execute, you need the test data, right? So if I say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and create a credit application, well, what data are you going to use it to create a credit application? Okay. Post conditions are typically what must be true or state of the system if I execute this test case successfully. What should be it look like? Okay.
We got precondition before.
Precondition is what should be there before I run the test case. This one is what should be after I run the test case
Okay.
and successful.
Okay. So we need to predict for the Precondition.
We'll talk about it as we go through an example, right? Think around it. What should be the state of the system before
Before.
I execute this test case? What should be the state of the system after? Okay. And then like status is like it's you remember we talked about it could be planned, executed, designed, failed, all those things. Okay. So that's a high level structure or template for test case. Now let's talk through it, right? We said as a dealer user, I want to log in into the system, right? With a valid user ID and password. I want to test that scenario, right? So let's think about that, right? So you can just say, let's do that, okay? So I wanted to say it's, hey, my project name is rflow, right? In this scenario module, right? Remember login ID and everything is related to the security, right? So I said, hey, this is a security module. Okay. Let's say I'm writing this design test case, right? So I'm just gonna go put that design date. Let's just put October 1st. Okay, which is today's date. Release version, this is my first iteration. So I'm saying this is the version 1.0. This is the original version of test case. I haven't executed yet, but I'm still designed. So I'm gonna leave those to empty. Now, think around it from priority point of view. If a dealer is not able to log in, can they test any of their functionality? Right, so I'm gonna probably put it a high priority, right? Let's say test case, I'm just gonna call it T01 for now, right? And you can increment the numbers, right? Test type, now this is what it is, I'm gonna, right? Right, so that's kind of at a high level, so I can say, here's what I'm doing, I'm trying to do as part of this test case, I'm gonna validate that, right? What is the precondition? So here's where you want to think about, right? This is the login, right? But if I'm not, I don't have an account in the system, can I log in? Right? So I can just say it's a precondition, right? So dealer user has identified in the data section exists in the system, right? Okay, so all I'm saying is if I tell you user ID and a password, it better be make sure that that user exists in the system, because if they don't, I will not be able to successfully log in. Right? Good with me? So that's a precondition. I don't have any dependencies because all I'm just going to log into the system. As long as rflow is up, all the components of rflow is up, I should be able to do that. Right? Because I'm not making any transaction. All I'm trying to do is log in into the system. Everybody with me? All right. Now the summary. Now you talked about validate dealer user login, but which of the scenario it is, right? So I can just say it's right. Right? So as long as I'm providing a valid user ID and a password, I'm able to log in. Right?
Question about the precondition, you're not talking about sanity testing, right?
No, this is what it should be true in the system state before I do this testing.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk through the test steps. So if you have to log in into the system, what do you do first?
Go to the browser.
Go to the browser and do what?
Go to the website or our flown website.
their address in the URL bar, right?
Right.
Right, so let's do that, right? So there's. Right,
Does user have to put a URL like manually? Or if you type chess.com, should pop up, right?
no, you have to know which application which you are doing, right? So now that I've started in the steps, the first thing I need to do is provide a URL, right? It says I'm going to specify in the data section, right? So the way you can do it, test data, you know, I need a URL. Right? And we'll go into a moment what URLs are, right? So what happens? What is the expected results? If I enter those URL and click enter, what should I see it?
Website.
Yeah.
Right?
Application.
So
Application. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Are you with me? What I'm doing it, what should I see it when I do that? Okay. What do you do after that? Enter what? Right?
Go.
Go to the login page and enter the user ID.
Right? A lot of times when you started, right, you just say, hey, enter user ID and password. But you didn't take any action, right? So if I go to the browser and I just enter user ID and password and don't click on login, is anything going to change? No. So make sure all of your steps talks about what is the action you're doing. Right? So here I'm entering the data and clicking the enter. Here I'm entering ID and a password and clicking on the login. Right? So always make sure you're taking some action because system is not going to react till you take some action. Okay. So now I needed a user ID and I need a password. Right? Okay, what is the expected result? I'm going to see it. So I'm going to say it's 1.
Able to log in, maybe? And we'll go to login. It's okay. After
To
enter-
take you to the next page, basically.
So again, what should happen? Think for a moment and tell me what should happen.
So two things gonna happen. It's gonna say wrong password or wrong ID or.
Okay, here I'm providing a valid user ID and a password.
Okay.
So if it tells a wrong password, something is wrong.
Right. So it should log in.
It's gonna load.
Go inside.
It should take you inside, right? Think around, there are 2 things happens here. First one, it takes your user ID and password, validates it's a valid or not, right? Once it validates, it allows you to log in into the system, right? So I logged into the system and then once I'm successfully logged in, then it determines what page needs to be shown and it displays that in the browser. Right? Because it never says that you successfully logged in the system, right? It just takes you automatically to the page that you should be seeing it if you're successfully logged in. Right? So in this case, right, you can say dealer user. How do I know that this is what's going to happen? Right? So if you look into design document, right? You look at the bottom. there's a page flow diagram, right? So if dealer uses logs in successfully, what happens? Dealer homepage is displayed. Right, so. Right. First, I come to login page. If I successfully log in, the next page gets displayed as a dealer homepage. It's different for administrator. Right, different for lender. So this way, I know if a dealer homepage gets displayed, I know I logged in successfully as a dealer. If I'm logging in and I start seeing administrator homepage, then it fails, right? So I'm making it very clear in my expected results that two things has to happen. You logging in successfully, and second thing, dealer homepage should be displayed. If one of that is not there, then it fails. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the next thing that's going to happen?
Take me to the dashboard, maybe. It take you to the dashboard, right? Like,
If I already logged in as a dealer homepage, why would it take me to the dashboard?
maybe with the calculation.
This is where you,
Calculation, and
Okay.
then
so think around what is the scope of your test cases? What is the scope? What did I say?
Oh, so I think we're done.
We're done, right?
done, yeah.
Don't keep adding things that is not needed. This is what you went about to test it. If I'm done, I don't need to do anything else. I'm done. Right? Because if I start adding now other things to this, what is the purpose of test case? Right? So I'm done here, right? Okay. So I had only two steps in this scenario. I'm gonna keep it a little bit so that it matches it. Okay. Good. All right, so now I need a URL. And I need a user ID and the password, right? So typically, this kind of sets of information, you get it from your development team. It says, hey, what is the URL for test site? What is the IDs and the passwords that you need to do? Now, let me look at it. If I have, hold on. So I was going to try to find it. Where would you find it? Okay. So,
Do we have to provide all that information or?
all right, so remember, like I gave you this document, right? Right after that, you have all this sets of information. Okay, so this is the URL that they say it is there. So I'm going to go ahead and so it's rflowntraining.cloudapp.net, right? So I'm going to say it's my URL. Okay. And there are multiple user IDs, right? They've provided different IDs for the dealer, right? So dealer users, they're there. So let's just use the G training and the password is training, right? So
Why is it not HTTPS? Why is it
typically when you log in, right, it could be unsecure site, it could be secure site, right? In this case, this is the example, the URL that they've provided. Right? They said it's only HTTP URL, which is fine, right? What they may be saying is after you log in or after you start putting that and you click it login, at that time it encrypts and sends it. That is okay, right? So, but it's a good observation, right? You should ask the questions.
Right.
Should login page be secure or not? Right. So, now, what is the post condition? But that's the results. What is the condition of the systems? Right?
User success, dealer user.
The dealer user is logged in the system. Right? Because before that, the user was not logged in. At this point, now user is logged into the system. Okay, and then you can say this one is planned. Okay. And I don't have to put any notes on this.
Status.
I've not executed, right? This is the first time I kind of wrote the test case. Right? I still may have to review with my team, right? Once it's reviewed, you can change the status of review. Right, and execute it. Okay. So do you see it how I change the one leaf into the test case? Right. Now, if I have to give it the invalid user ID and a password, right? Or valid user ID with invalid password, right? My steps will be the same, right? But this expected result is going to be different, right? My data will be different. Right, so I'm running the similar test case, but since my expected results is different, based on the data that is going to be different, that will be a unique test case. Okay, but that will be a negative scenario. This will be a positive scenario. Good.
So then after you finish it, then you're gonna run it and just gonna say pass or.
Yeah, so we'll run it later. We don't have a system yet, right? Remember, like it's SDLC cycle. I have the requirements, so I'm designing it. So I'm in the designing process. We'll worry about running later once the system is available. Right, but you have to design all the test cases. Okay. Good. All right. So all of you have a blank page in your folder. Okay. And remember, let's look at it, right? Because I gave you all of the templates, right? So I want you to go ahead and write a test case. Okay. As a group, write one test case each, but I'm going to give you opportunity to write 3 different test cases. Okay. I want you to pick it, one of these requirements that you wrote it. Remember, you did all 6?
Yeah.
Right? Pick one requirement each. Okay. And as each group, you write 3 test cases. Okay, I don't care which one you pick and which leaf you pick it. Pick one. Right? That way you are comfortable writing the test case. So you should have, between 4 of you, you should have 4 pages, right? The blank pages. There is one on that. Everybody's folder. No. You have it. Oh, Harshal is printed, so you don't have to dig it up. Just give 3 into each group. Okay. So pick a requirement, right? So think of this way, right? You could have said, pay attention here for a moment, right? So you may decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this, create an RFREP user. Okay. Within that, you may have like 3 or 4 different scenarios. Pick one scenarios and write that one test case. Then pick this requirement, write one scenario for this one. Pick the third requirement, write one scenarios for that. Okay.
That's a.
As a group,
Yeah.
then you should be done with 3 test cases. Right. Let's say, for example, right? I want to create a dealer user with all the valid data as one scenario. Remember?
Yeah, we have it.
Right.
Yes,
So you write that test case.
for one scenario.
For one
For one,
scenario.
just one scenario.
Remember, every test case is for each scenario, each lead. right? Then you pick another requirement, says, hey, I need to calculate the loan payment.
Right.
I'll give you valid data. And then you write that. So that's a second test case. Then third one is I want to be able to search lender by lender name. Right? You talked about there's two scenarios. Pick one scenario and write the test case for it. Right? But the reason why I want to do it as a team, so once you write it, review together as a team. Make sure you all agree it is what are the steps, what are the expected results. Okay? And so you guys decide which one of the three you want. Right? Each team. Are you guys clear about what is expected?
How
I
much
still
time
see
you are
some
giving,
parts.
Philip?
Let's make sure they are clear what they wanted first. Are you guys clear? Yes or no? Simple question. There's no ambiguity. It's either yes or no.
Yes. You can develop test case.
All right, good? All right, Sneha,
Yeah, for each scenario, we have to do a test case and for
right.
basically
So
three.
again, you're gonna be loner,
Yeah,
right?
Two.
So write as many as you can, right? If you're not done with all three test cases, it's fine. Write your review and we'll review that, okay? And then I'm gonna leave this one up open for all of you.
I
to
already
see it
gave
through.
them a printout. Okay,
Oh, you,
they have printout.
oh, you gave the super user login? Okay, so Harshal gave you a printout, which is another test case I wrote it for the super user login. It's exact same as a dealer. Instead of dealer, it's a super user login.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
so
already
you should
there,
have a
printout.
printout with you.
Four copies I gave you, so one each, you guys can take that. And then, there are a bunch of printouts, right? So it should be at the end.
Yeah, you should have.
It's in there, it's in there. The additional paper. So,
There you go.
Are we sticking to
The 6 requirements?
the 6 requirements?
there are 4 copies, so you can.
Yes. Yes, Thomas, you're sticking to those 6 requirements that I gave you on last Thursday.
Fill from the ones we did today.
Well, actually, we could go from the one we did today.
Which one?
Any of them, like the one we discussed.
Okay, we'll let them pick, maybe it's fine, but everything else becomes homework.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys will have to continue working on this as part of the home, so.
Pick those 6 or the 3 that you did today, right? Out of 9, pick whatever requirements you want. I want you to pick 3 different requirements and 3 different test cases
That's all.
as a group. That's all you have.
We can pick
So,
it.
yeah, let's work on.
So you pick whatever you need, right?
Because you did that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, hang on, guys. So I'm gonna give each one of you total of 45 minutes, 15 minutes for each test cases.
See
Correct,
how far you go.
okay? And then at 12 o'clock, because it's 11:15, at 12 o'clock, we'll start reviewing those test cases.
You want to review it here, so you can correct it right away, what your
We'll be
mistakes are.
doing what we did today.
That's fine. You pick requirements. So when I'm gonna ask you to review, I'm gonna say which requirement, which scenario you did, so that you can walk me through it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Alright, okay, great.
good? All right,
45 minutes.
45 minutes. It's in the rec. I'm gonna actually stop my screen. Sneha, you wanna go ahead and share one test case from you?
yeah, I wrote it in a paper, so.
Okay, can you take a picture and then share that picture here?
Okay. Some time, I mean, you can, I'll just go ahead and do that. Yeah.
All right. Let's say. You guys
Yeah,
wanna go ahead and, so tell me first the requirements. Which you're doing, what scenarios you're doing it,
No, I just
and then we'll
have.
start. You have a written one, so we should be able to start. What question you have?
So release version. Oh, no, test case number, right? So we have 2 different test cases for 2 different scenarios. So
Okay.
test case number is gonna be
1 and 2.
One and
Two
two.
different, yeah.
Scenario too? Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you are writing on piece of paper, but when we.
The
start
system
talking
takes care of
tools, Yeah, it will auto generate.
Oh,
So-
even different scenarios.
Yeah, it will auto
Well,
generate.
you have to write test case per scenario.
Oh, okay.
The leaf, every leaf that we draw on it, right? So remember, like it's, we did this,
He's talking about if you work with different money. That's what.
you can still write a unique test case by project.
I
So,
mean, tools will
Don't
auto
worry
generate.
about the numbers,
Yeah,
right? The numbers is essentially, if you're doing it manually, then you do it. Most of the companies where you're gonna work will have the software,
which we will talk next week.
okay? We'll start talking about Azure DevOps, the software of what the application, what they call it is ALM or application lifecycle management tools. We're gonna use that to do it. But I don't want to use the tool till you understand the process, because you still need to understand the process before putting anything in the tool. Okay, so the unique number and the status, that will taken care within the tools.
Oh, okay.
But I just wanted you to be aware that, hey, every test case is gonna have a unique number. That's it. How we go about it, that's something that we can talk later. Right?
Is there two test case per scenario or just one test case per scenario?
Remember, like it's, we talked about this, there are 4 leaves, so there are 4 test cases that you run.
Oh.
So as many leaves as you have it, for every requirement is that many test cases you can have. Okay. Remember, we did the same. Right, here. We did 7.
Yeah.
So this will have 7 test cases,
Okay.
right? Here, we did loan calculator, a whole bunch of them. All of them is gonna have a different test scenarios. Okay? So, why don't we start with your test case while she is pulling it up?
Right. So Dilip, you wanna write down or?
Yeah, I
how
was
she
gonna
wants-
write it. that-
Yeah.
So you're gonna tell me the test requirements, right? So which requirement? Right, so you're gonna tell me the requirement, then you're gonna
Scenario.
talk about the scenario.
I sent one to Harshal, just the same as valid airfrap user. That's the,
It is
instead of dealer user, I did the airfrap user. I think it should be the same. And I can send the other 2 as well.
It's not in this one, Marshall.
It should be coming here. Yeah, there you go.
It's taking it back. Okay, so this one is area manage. Create a valid airfrap user, is that what it is? So Sneha, tell me, like it's, do you see, oh, hang on, I'm not sharing. You're
It's
missing.
the valid airfrap user requirement.
Share my screen. Okay, so this is the one I'm looking at it.
Yes.
Yeah. So which one, which requirement is this? Is it the one that we talked about creating it?
Yeah, creating the valid airfrap user login.
This one, right?
Yeah,
Login, right? You're creating the user,
that's right.
not the login, okay?
Yeah.
So the requirement is 2.6 manage user. That's your requirement. The scenario is, which of the scenarios?
With the valid user ID and password.
There is no valid user ID. This is creating a user.
Check the test title, what she has it, so we can see if she has the.
I think it's she's using the ID and the password. Yeah, this is not about logging in. This is about creating the valid user. Okay. Stan, did you get what I'm saying? This
Yes.
is not logging in. It's about actually creating that user.
Creating the user ID password. Okay, let me just go ahead and send. I think I got that wrong. I'll send the other one for loan calculation meanwhile.
Alright, anybody else wrote the same one?
Anybody wrote a creating a user? Okay, so while we are waiting it for Sneha to send it, why don't your team talk through it, what scenarios that you talked about?
Okay.
So tell me, what is the requirement number?
The requirement number is,
Read the requirement for me.
My password must be 8 characters and requires at least 1 hour.
Okay.
Okay,
Password validation.
Great character. Special character.
okay, what scenarios?
Scenario is. Validate the password 8 characters.
No, remember, like we drew a whole bunch of scenarios, right?
Scenarios.
So for the password, so this, which one?
The validating the positive.
This one, the
Yes,
first one?
The first one.
So what's your test title? What is the title that you have?
The first title. Password, validating, 8-character password. Test title.
Okay.
Yeah,
So tell me, what are the steps you used?
so, step you use.
Where do I start?
Right.
No, just
No,
try the
Steps.
steps first.
Let's not worry about the precondition for a moment. What are the steps? Tell me the steps.
Oh, the step, okay, start, go to the URL browser.
Okay.
And then put in afternoontraining.cloud,
Yeah,
Well,
Okay,
URL, yes,
and login as who?
login after.
user.
User, afternoon rep user.
Our flown rep user.
rep user.
Artwork user.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Enter. And then afternoon application homepage displays. in the
Right.
browser.
So
That's the expected result.
Yeah.
okay, I'm just writing it at a high level. What we call it is a logical step. So I'm not writing the detail, I'm just putting a structure. What is the step 2?
Step 2 is the homepage, application homepage can put in the username and the ID.
You already logged in, right?
You already logged in, right? You can
As
approve the
rep
first step.
user. So what are you putting username and ID?
Oh, wait,
That's okay, you may have broken down into 2 steps, but I'm just gonna say, go to the home page, log in as a user,
Okay.
and you're logged in the system. What is the next step?
The next step is, once we log in successfully, we validate the character password.
Okay, so the context is incorrect.
Context on.
Okay, for this requirement. Does anybody know what is the context here?
so can I read it again?
No,
Yeah.
no, hold on. I think the context is incorrect, okay, for password validation.
You need to click that the login.
No, remember, when we talked yesterday or Thursday, when does this requirement come into the picture?
Without that, you cannot write any test cases. Okay, if you don't understand
There should be an
when,
account.
who is doing the work,
There should be an account
No,
that,
while creating a new user account. That's when this requirement comes in picture, because that's why you're providing the password. Right? So, given that context, how would you go about it?
what would you do?
First, you need to understand who all is authorized to create a user account, right? And you need to log in as that person. Or
Login
that-
as a system administrator, whoever is creating, right? Here.
Yeah, so there are few people can do it, right? So if you look into the requirements document. Let me see if I can get to the requirements.
So design, yeah.
Yeah, this is the design I wanted all
Oh, okay,
project files.
yeah.
Okay. So remember who all can create users? All these people. Right? It's anybody who is in this column, manage users, can create it, right? So your dealer can create, super user can create, obviously RFREP can you do it. So is area manager and regional manager. Okay. So let's say I'm logging in the RFREP and I want to create a user now. How do I go about it? Let's keep it simple, right? Let's just keep it the site administrator, right? Who has all of them? How would they go about it? Right? Let's just say site
User,
site admin. Okay. What is the next step it's going to be? You were saying something.
Create. user.
Manage, then he should click on manage whatever the dealer or.
Right.
So
So
somewhere you have to access the functionality, right?
Right.
Or creating a user or manage users
Right.
type of thing.
so once you do that, you go to manage user.
Okay.
That's
Then
where this
under-
diagram comes handy.
Underneath
Okay.
that, then you're gonna have a create user, right? So first you have to go to the manage users, right? So you need to write that as part of your steps, right? 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 And then expected results is,
User.
have or whatever the page is,
Or
right?
functionality page is display, right? I mean, page, I mean, yep.
Manage user tab or page.
Right? Then third thing is, right? Click on,
Create new user name.
right? Your expected results.
More.
Okay.
Most of them.
Right.
Then what is the next step? Enter data. Now, where are you gonna, you have to, what all data you need to provide?
ID.
Where do you get that? Where would you get that information? What data you need to provide? System design document, right? So you need to go into the system design document. Okay. Let's say, I think it's, I have a system design document. So,
Yep, that's a page for it.
okay,
That's training something, right?
so you need to go and says when a new user is created,
So.
right? So this is the new user, right? So you, for user, you have to look at it, what all is required field, and you have to provide that, right? So ID, you're not going to provide it, right? Because it's system generated.
Yeah.
Right? Login ID, this is also auto generated. Okay. But then you're going to provide it password. This is where this requirement comes into the picture. So you have to be very clear in terms of what is the combination or the password you're going to provide, right? Then type of user. So you need to pick it. What type of user you're creating it. Okay. Then you need to provide the first name, last name. Okay. Then you also need an email address for that user. You need a dealership ID. But
If
this
it's
is
for
required
dealer.
only for dealer to use it. So depending on what type of user you're creating it, if you're creating a dealer user, you need to provide that. Okay. If you're creating a lender user, then you need to provide a lender ID. If you're creating an area manager, I'm sorry, if you're creating RFREP user, then you have to provide this. So first you have to decide which type of user you're creating. It's not about any users. Depending on what type of user you're creating, the required data is a little bit different.
So as a tester or QA, you have to pick the right user and right.
So
set of
first you have
testers.
to select it. Hey, I'm going to create what type of user. Let's say you're creating a dealer user, right? So. So now you're specific, what you're creating. So you go to the requirements document. Right? And identify what all is required for creating a dealer user. Are you with me? Yes.
So does it mean that then we are not validating the password, but creating a user?
You're creating it,
Oh, okay.
but when you're creating it, if your password does not match that rule, it should not allow you to create that user, saying that you didn't create the right password. So if you try to go to any of the websites and register as a new user, they have a password requirement, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just put any password.
Yeah.
It checks it. This is that process.
Plus
Right,
it requires other data fields, not
Yeah.
just the password.
right. So here you need it. The first name, last name, user type, right? So you will just put it here, right? So I need a first name. I need a last name. I need a user type. Right, in this case, user type equal to dealer user. Right? We said it needs an email address. It needs a dealership ID,
Password, obviously.
right? You need a password. And so what else is needed? Right,
Any other required fields you have to supply, so.
right? Yeah, that's it. Those are the required field. There are a lot of other options. You can just say, hey, I can provide those, right? And then there should be an active, inactive flag. So you need to provide. That's right. So. Active flag, you should say yes, right? Because then you can log in into the system after that. Right. Now, you create this. What is the next step?
So, if I, so
Yeah.
password, right? What is your data, right? You need to supply the exact
Yeah.
password that you are providing.
You to provide all of this
All of this,
information
exactly.
that they are flagged, including the password.
Yeah.
And that password has to be 8 character, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase. I'm sorry, 1 uppercase, 1 special character, and no more than 8. Right? So you can just say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and put password, right? Give me an example. Right? So you can just say, hey, I'm gonna do R. Right? Special character, uppercase, 8.
Right.
Right? So now, if I use this password, it should be able to allow me that. Right? Okay,
Expected result on this.
expected result is what,
Successfully
right?
able to.
And then, right? So, user is created successfully, right? What type of user? How do you know your password works now? Just because it's created, that doesn't mean it works, right? You need to validate it, right? How do you say? You're gonna be logged out of system,
Login back.
right? Then you log in as
Dealer user.
dealer,
Dealer user.
That's a wrong log.
Take a long one.
Right?
and if you,
It's good.
what should be expected result?
Login. Able to, dealer user able to log in. But it was the
Dealer homepage should be displayed.
Now, remember, like this may just, depending on the detail, right? It may just end up multiple steps, but here is the logical scenario, right? This six, when you finish this 6 steps, then you know, A, the password required that, and the user is created successfully, and I can log in using that password. So when that entire thing happens, then I know for sure that that requirement is fulfilled. For this particular step.
We thought we're just validating the password, so now, so it makes sense. Because it was easy.
Right? Now, again, like I said, again, we talked about like the first one, you can break it down into 2 steps. Obviously, you can break it down into steps. Right.
So we're gonna get this one, you're recording this, right?
I'm recording this right now.
But you're gonna write so many so that you will not forget.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Can you able to send this inside?
Without an uppercase.
And you don't want that.
If I create a password without an uppercase, the user is still creating.
No,
So then you should get, so what do you get generally? If something doesn't meet the criteria, some error.
you should get some sort of error message. Right? And what happens when you go log in, right? What happens if you don't have a valid password created according to their rules, they'll keep prompting, create new, till you successfully do that. Right? If it's not, what do you get? Error message, right?
Yeah.
That password does not meet that criteria.
Okay.
Some error message.
So if it fails here, right? You will never be executing those 2 steps.
Okay.
You execute the next step only if your expected result meets it, because then only you can proceed further.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so I think just to, with the scenario we chose, it was similar ones, but we were thinking of a wrong password. Like.
We are
just-
incorrectly connected.
Right, so in those case, right, negative test case, you would have everything except this 2.
Okay.
Right, because then it fails here. And that's an expected result, and that's what you got it. So you know that you can't create a user without that thing.
Okay.
So you supply the invalid password in lowercase, I don't know what your,
Yeah,
just say right, ARF, lowercase, everything.
right,
Different one, yeah.
Then you expect the error should be
Right.
displayed.
Yeah.
There you go.
So on this one, what, do we have a precondition?
yes. The precondition is that you should not have. You should have that super user. That they can get into it,
Exist in the system.
existing in the system, right?
Okay.
Then you need to have that dealership exist in the system, because without that, you cannot create a user ID for that dealership.
Also.
Right.
You're creating the dealer.
I'm not creating dealer, I'm creating a dealer user. I'm not creating German Honda, I'm creating a person working at German Honda. So German Honda should be existing in the system first. Right, so your dealership should exist. And I'm creating a dealer user, yes, the
Yep.
users, right?
So, go through the design document requirements one more time, I think it will make a lot more clear, now how this thing fits together.
What you just said is confusing.
Yep, dealer,
Right.
user, lender, user.
Dealer is like the same.
No.
Just-
One is a company, other one is person working at that company,
Employees of that company.
employees of that company. So think of this way, right? The QA class exists. Good. But I want to reach to a student who is enrolled into that QA class. How would I do that? The QA class has to exist before enrolling somebody in.
Yeah.
Right? So dealership has to exist before you can say, so and so person works at that dealership. Right? So you create, what are you creating here? You're creating a person working at that dealership. So my precondition should have that dealership should exist before, because I'm providing that information as input.
Okay.
That makes sense, Thomas? You're still confused.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when it comes to lenders, I'm just using.
You have to think it same way.
You have to think
Lender-
that way. Lender has to
lender
exist
has
before
to
you create a lender user.
Gotcha.
Think it same way.
right? And think about, right? RFREP user, before you create, the area manager has to exist, right? Because that person is going to work for that manager.
Okay.
So they have to exist before you can say this person works for that.
Got it.
Okay. Sneha, question on this one.
Mhm. No,
You're-
I'm fine.
So what will be post condition? Right, what is the post condition for this one?
Dealer
Yes.
should exist, right?
Right, dealer user is created successfully in the system. That's what the post condition is in this case. Okay. Good. You see what details you need to write in order to validate that particular scenario? Right.
You need to understand business process, okay, that it's all about business process now, so. Writing a detailed test, right? Yeah.
The context is very important when you're writing the test cases. Right, that's why we ask it even before you write the scenarios. Do you understand where this comes into play? And once you understand that, then now it's easier, right? Because you're writing the step case, you need to make sure you're bringing the user to that context before executing it. This one is recorded.
So I think after you guys write 10 more, you guys will be fine.
The more the practice you will do it, writing the test cases, the easier it'll become a second nature.
And read the requirement. If you maybe read one more time.
You have plenty of test cases to write it. We talked through 9 requirements, right? We did at least like 30 plus test cases under those things, leaves. You can practice 30 at least. Okay.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
So the test data again, we only need the dealership to exist. How about the management who is creating it? Can we also say that like GS training or site admins also exist in the system, or just the dealership?
System admin has to exist, right?
Okay. So
Because you're going to use that to log in.
yeah, okay, so both.
So those things needs to exist. The dealership needs to exist,
Okay.
and
Now-
then you can create all of it.
If it doesn't exist, then what you need to do? Let's say you forgot to write it, somebody's executing, following your steps, and then they see that, okay, what would happen at that point?
I can't do it. I'm not in the system.
Oh, you can still do it,
You're a tester, right?
you're a tester.
So essentially, as you go
Oh,
through it,
Okay.
right? If the dealership doesn't exist, then the first step you're gonna do is you're gonna create a
Create a
dealership.
dealer.
And then you're gonna create a dealer.
Oh.
So you have to go through all the steps. Right. Yeah, that's where the test
So
data.
you have to look at it, what all, if the precondition doesn't exist, and you need to run this test case, what are you gonna do? You're gonna make that precondition true. And in order to do that, you have to look at it, is there any other ways I can do it? Create a dealer, then you look at that test case and says, how can I go ahead and create that dealer? Once that happens, then the precondition with this becomes successful, then I can run this test case. Okay, that's why it's important to understand the context. What comes, what should be there? If it's not there, how are you gonna make it happen? Okay. All right. Thomas Bhagyashree, why don't your team talk about the test case that you wrote?
The second one, not the same one, not the same one,
Yeah,
similar one, I mean.
you have, what are the 3 test cases you wrote?
Let's see if they can talk the steps,
Yeah.
logical steps, yeah. Is it there?
Yeah.
The budget
So you tell me what is the requirement number? Requirement. There's so much discussion, which requirements you did? Pick either one, that's fine. Let's go with the one that you wrote it.
Delaying that extent.
You got to get that. All right, while you're waiting it, I'm gonna go walk with one Sneha. You better figure it out. I'm not gonna wait 5 minutes next time to figure out which one you're gonna talk. You gotta pick one. Okay, I have 2 teenagers. I know all the delaying techniques.
The requirement loan calculator 2.3.4, I guess.
What is that? Let's just say it's,
2, 3, 4.
no.
Oh, calculate loan payment using predefined calculation.
Yeah,
Okay,
They have only one requirement.
right. So you guys know which all requirements I'm just doing. What is the scenario? Sneha,
scenario would be
the positive one or test, which scenario, sorry?
positive. Or in
Positive?
fact, I put it as a 0 when in fact it's a negative one. When
Okay,
the
so,
amount is 0, and you
right,
calculate the loan payment.
okay.
Yeah.
What is the steps? Walk through the steps for me. and let me
Okay, so first step would be enter into the URL for the application, then
As a dealer, okay,
as a dealer, and
Yeah,
then
you click on the loan calculator, enter the
Yeah.
amount, okay.
enter the amount.
All right, so you are right on that track, right? So same way you'll do it, right? So first one is, we just say login as dealer user,
Dealer user.
right? So navigate to loan
Calculator.
calculator. Okay. Enter. Right,
The amount, principal amount, yeah.
right. So these are the key steps, right? So what they call it is, this is the logical flow that you would use it to test this thing, right?
Right.
So, and then obviously you will have an expected results for each one of them.
Yes.
Okay. This simple, straightforward. Because you know who will be all calculating the loan payment. You log in at that person. Then you go ahead and like it's gonna navigate to the calculator where you can enter the information. In this case, it's 0, so you enter and expect as a 0. Right?
Yeah, I guess my only question is, we don't need to worry, we don't have to detail out how to get a dealer user in this case, right?
So
You still have to log in as user, so you still need a credential, who is the dealer user, what is the password? Right, so I'm giving you
Precondition.
logical steps.
yeah, precondition, you can put that in, right? Dealer user exists in the
Yeah.
system. Yeah,
Yeah.
precondition.
Okay.
So what is the term and the rate? We don't need that here? Let's have this.
We talked about it, right, on Thursday? Since you have a predefined calculation,
Yeah,
you
okay.
don't need it 60 months,
Yeah, okay.
right?
so-
You don't need an interest rate.
Yeah, you just need the amount, okay. Okay.
Yeah, otherwise normally you would need it
Yes.
if there is no calculation provided,
Yeah.
right? Because then you are building your calculation.
Yes.
In this case, they're gonna provide a predefined calculation. It says, just use that calculation. Don't worry about the term or the interest rate.
Yes.
So wouldn't that be the precondition? Time period is 60 months and rate is 3%.
No, not in this case, because you are just giving you got the formula. All you have to do is apply that formula. So dependency is if I'm dependent on other modules or other system to exist. Precondition is what should be the state of the system. What should be true within the R flow. Not worry about the emails, not worry about anything else. Right, so dependency is what all I'm dependent on versus what should be the condition, right? So for example, right? If you have teenager kids and they need to go to some sort of event, right? The precondition is event schedule and plan. And do you have a parent who can take you there? Right? The dependency would be his car. If you don't have a car, how the parents are going to take it, right? Doesn't matter whose car it is. You need to have a working vehicle. So somebody will take you. That's a dependency.
And do you have tickets, right? If you need a ticket.
That's one thing, the event, right? Ticket,
Right.
whatever, if you have that, then yes. Right. So your precondition, I have a ticket. I have a parent who can take me there. And their dependency is the car, which is going to take me there.
So for email, right? I mean, email server has to be up and running. Before
That's a
you can
dependency.
use it, that's a dependency. Because it has to be available.
Versus I need to have a valid email address. That's a precondition.
Right.
Okay. So what should be true in the system is a precondition. What are the other dependent factors? The system is dependent on order. Is the dependencies,
External component.
external
Yeah.
components.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So dependencies means external components.
External
External
components that are
components.
outside the system that you're dependent on. Okay. Got it? All right. Let's talk the third one. You guys tell me what scenario, what requirement? Okay. You're still thinking what requirement?
No.
Tell me the requirement.
The requirement is 3.12 after credit application is submitted, system shall notify lender by email. And then our positive scenario is valid email. So the threat card is high.
Wait,
Hang on. Okay, what scenario?
Valid email.
Okay, what are the steps?
Yes. We will use the finish credit application and click on submit application.
Is that the first step?
I think they lump sum all the steps together.
Log in.
Login as a dealer user.
Dealer user.
Okay.
Create application. Enter detail.
What all data you needed? In this context, what all data you will need? Credit application is probably lots of data, but which is the key thing that you needed for this case?
Social security number.
First and last name.
I need a lender ID, right? Because that's where the email is gonna go.
Yeah.
Still, there is still a lot of other required field, you have to provide all of that. But in the context, right, you need it,
Specific lender.
provide a specific,
Lender information.
Okay, what is the next step?
Submission.
Well, that's part of it, right? Because unless you take an action, nothing is gonna happen. I can type as many field I wanted, but unless I create a submit application, nothing is gonna happen, right?
It's part of three.
That's part of 3. What is the next step?
Lender is notified. Whatever.
No, that's it.
That's it?
We click the submit the application and.
But that's only submitting the.
That's
credit
only part
application.
of it. What else?
What are you
What is your
verifying?
requirement?
What are you verifying here?
So-
Email is.
Email is the.
Okay, so.
Email
what
is
are
sent.
the
How do
steps?
you validate email is sent?
How are you gonna validate? That's a key part here.
If system tells, so here's the.
Yeah.
And this will get done. You go to deposit your check into the bank. Right? You deposited the check. It's, the teller tells you the check is deposited. Are you done? How do you know for sure that he didn't put the money into the account?
So it has to be
You'll
received.
check your account.
You check your account, right? That's your verification, right? Did the money came up? What is the step here? How do you know the email address got it?
Email send notification.
It should get a message that the credit application submitted successfully. Some kind of a message.
Hang on a second. So email notification, the way you're saying it is equivalent to teller is telling you, I deposited your check. Whether he did it or not, I don't know.
Once we click on submit, it is supposed to say like.
Well, you're when you.
You are a tester, you are a tester. You need to validate, does the system behave the way it is
And
expected?
now we will log in as lender
Okay,
and then.
So
see
she's
if the
taking,
application is-
okay, where does the email it's gonna come? In this Airflow or somewhere else?
she's taking the lender, will see the application and that's done.
Yeah,
She's done. That's not the validation here.
think
How-
about it,
how
what
would
are you validating?
The validity.
So you have to create another email.
You log in into lender's email system as a lender. Check it, did I receive that email?
That's what I said.
No, you didn't say that. You assume that you say it and everybody understood that. I'm asking explicitly what step. Here is the key, when you write the test case. Okay, everything is in your head. Just because it's in your head, that doesn't mean it exists on the paper for somebody to execute it.
No.
If the right test is, if you write a test case, give it to, let's say, Jivan, and says, go ahead and execute it without asking me a question. And if he can do that, everything, that's a sign that you have detailed enough test case.
So we'll log
If
out
you
as-
give me this, I bet it if you give this to Harshal, Harshal says, what the heck going on here? What I'm supposed to do? Yeah, it created, I'm done?
log out as lender and validate.
Yeah, but you didn't say it.
No, but
You have to explicitly say that steps of how you're gonna verify that action. Okay,
But I still didn't get it. So what's the verification here they are saying?
So we submitted the application and we log out as lender.
Okay,
We now log in as lender.
okay, so if you log in as a lender, I mean, how would you know it's an email is there? Are you expecting email to be in the application itself?
Unless the application was designed to give. which
It's
has
not.
an
it's
inbox.
not,
I'm clarifying.
there is no requirement.
So you log in into lender's email system.
Okay, so that's exactly what you need to do. Okay, you log in to the lender's email account and see physically, hey, do I receive the email?
Right,
Right.
So this is not in real time.
it's not any email, right? This specific email has to validate it.
So this is not in real time, right? Like log out as a dealer, right? So dealer cannot log into the lender in a real time, but this is as a tester or developer, right?
Yeah, you're as a tester, you are wearing different hat, you have to wear different hat. You are logging as a, you are behaving as a lender, dealer, all those things.
Okay.
You have to go through that mindset.
Mindset, yeah.
Email from the off now.
So that means that we have to create a dealer ID, like a dealer profile, which has its own, like as a tester.
Not dealer,
That will be the dependency, right?
lender.
I mean, sorry, lender.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to create a lender profile,
That's-
which has a certain
They can
email
email
that you
us.
can access.
Yes,
So let's see what precondition you.
those are the
put in,
preconditions, right?
Some of those things.
Because if I don't have that email address, where it's gonna send an email? Nowhere.
Okay.
If I have an invalid address, where it's gonna send? Nowhere.
You cannot access that, so you cannot prove that system is working.
So all of those
You don't
will
have-
become a precondition for you, right? So in this case,
Are you gonna send us this link?
no. Are you guys remembering it, what I'm telling you? Why do you need this?
No, it's gonna be to it, that's why.
The question is, did you understand what I was talking about?
Yeah.
If it is, then you don't need it.
You just said that you can't remember everything. Remember, I just told
See,
you.
every project going to be different, I mean, every test case going to be different, so you need to get into the practice.
If you understand the process, you don't need to do it. That's my question. Are you understanding the process? You understanding what we are doing here?
In class.
And yes, we will send you this. Okay? You have a recording, you will have this thing.
Yeah.
But the point is, you're not gonna use this blindly and says, okay, now that I know this, I'll be able to write all of this. No, you need to understand the process and the question and the discussion we are having in the class.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the key thing.
Yeah, I'm sure Dilip writes next time, it will be different.
I'll write it
Little
completely.
bit different, okay, I mean, so, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Precondition is dealer user exists and the email
Yeah,
address.
but I think, yeah, you guys are getting it, just that the process, I mean, just getting through the process.
Right? Right? And then you have access to that
Yeah.
email system. Okay? Make sense? Now, obviously, like as you will take this, write it a lot more specific detail. Along with the exact test data. And expected results. And I was giving you a logical construct. To say what the way that you need to do the flow.
At least think it through, right, or the how you would go about it, so.
Good? Sneha, any question?
No, I'm good.
All right. Okay, so now let's talk about the homework.
Oh, you're gonna have homework?
I am a conventional teacher. I strongly believe unless you have an opportunity to revise what you learned it doesn't sink in. So you're gonna have an opportunity to revise the learning.
Right.
And the way you're gonna do it, to revise the learning is initially Harsh will send you and then he will send it in an email, right?
So 6 we already said.
So
yeah.
remember, like it's 6 requirements that you already wrote it. We went through it. Today, we talked 3. He's gonna send you all those things, so you need to finish the other 3, creating a tree. Okay, then out of that 6 and this 6, right? Total 12 requirements you have. I want you to write at least 5 additional test cases in the detail. Just like the one that I did it for the dealer user, just like the 3 that we just walked through it. You write 5 others. Only condition is none of those 5 can be those 3 or the dealer user I wrote it down.
Or loan calculation.
Or loan calculator. You need to have different ones using those requirements.
So we can pick any requirement and.
Pick any of the 12 requirements
That we did not discuss.
and write the test case that we did not discuss in the class.
Okay, so 5.
5 more, right? So you had 3 plus that 5. I wrote 1, so you should have 9 test cases in the detail, right? To review it on Thursday.
I would suggest you start writing with the logical step, right? So
It's
that
like
might
this
make
one
sense.
first.
Like the way Dilip wrote it. Yeah. Logically, right? Start getting into the habit and then put more details.
Then you can fill in the details. Right,
But your
so this is-
logical needs to be correct.
yeah.
So the access is easy. He's gonna send it to us.
No, I'm not. I just said no.
If you send us like a picture, that would be nice. We don't have to go through all the record.
That's okay, that's okay.
He's gonna send you this in.
We will do that. You can use it to write other ones, because
Right.
you are not working on the same
Oh,
requirement.
no, just take it out.
Classwork or something.
Saying something, you think we start like now?
Oh, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
You were gonna say something. So, right.
One conversation at a time, please.
So I was saying, the logical steps for all the test cases. that
So
you
you know,
have-
one conversation at a time, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying the logical steps. So for every 5 test cases, you need to write. So make sure you write down the logical steps correctly. Like who is doing the work, what business process, make sure your business process is correct.
So what it says, first, so do it in a 2-step, right? First way is write all the logical steps.
Right.
Once you have understanding of logical steps, then you go into that template and write step-by-step instruction and expected results. Okay, that way make it easier, right? Because you're thinking through it first, making sure you're comfortable with how the logic and the context is working, and then putting that, the necessary detail, right? So if you look at it, right, all I just said, create new application, right? In reality, you have to look through it as what all field is required to create your credit application. You have to put all of that, right? I just said login as a dealer user. Well, you need to provide the dealer user ID and a password and that, right? But again, unless you have this clarity, it's gonna be hard for you to write those details. So let's just have that clarity first, write it that, and then as a next step, just go write it into this. Right? So what Herschel is suggesting is, when you write those additional 5 test cases, get the logic first. Then once you got the logic, then go into the template, write it the detail, following that logic. So it's an easier for you to write it.
And the template can be in the Word document. Next week, you're gonna need computer, so.
Yeah, so just put it on the Word document, so it's you can cut and paste it. You don't have to retype everything
And this template is available,
in the folder.
oh, yeah, I'll send you guys.
Okay,
I'll send
that's
you.
good.
So he will send you
What
this
template?
template, all of them with it.
These templates and homework too, list of homework.
Yes, what you need to do,
Right.
but 3 new requirements, you need to break it down, test scenarios, right?
Yeah.
You need to create on your own,
Oh, 3 new.
plus
Okay.
5 test cases,
Okay,
you need to write it. Because there are, we only covered 6, we showed 6 today in the new ones, right? We only covered 3
Yeah.
in the class.
Here is my recommendation. You're gonna start seeing things pick up the pace from now onwards.
But this is the core
So,
of what you do.
this is the core
okay?
thing.
This is, we wanna make sure
Okay.
you get it right. that's
So if you get stuck, make an attempt at least to understand, make and whatever assumptions you think it's needed, write those.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a scenario, and I'll be blunt, on Thursday, when we get into the class and says, I haven't written anything. Then you're just doing a disservice to yourself. Because unless you understand that process, even if you didn't understand correctly, we will not know it whether you understood it or not, unless you put something on the paper and we walk through it. Right? So this Thursday, I'm expecting everybody to walk the rest of the class through at least one of the test cases. Okay. Expectation clear?
Yeah.
That's gonna be forcing you, right? I don't want you to hear that, hey, we don't have it right. Or I have a different. Walk us through whatever you have it, because we are trying to understand what is the thinking process you're using.
It might help others, right, at the same time, so others might have the same question.
This is the opportunity to dig it deeper, understanding it. If you're not getting it, it's okay. Not everybody's perfect, right? So we started it. Hey, you got stuck here. How do you know the other, right? The only way you know it is when you have a discussion in the class. But if you don't write anything, there's nothing to discuss. Okay, so make sure you do all that work for Thursday, and then we'll walk through it. Right, as soon as this recording is available, Herschel will make that available. Okay. Okay, any questions?
So after this, I'm questioned about this. Verify the lender received the email about the credit application that was created. Step 3, right?
Yeah.
So there is no other step about approving and rejecting. That's different.
So
scenario.
that's
a
the
different
different
problem,
scenario.
right?
All you're looking at is here is, hey, if the credit application is submitted, did I get an email?
That's all.
That's all I'm validating.
So your scope is, your focus is only at that piece of functionality.
Okay.
Right, remember. Anything outside this, you're not worried about it yet.
Yeah.
That will be addressed in the other requirements, when you write the test case for the other requirement. Okay. All right. So